Like, you know, when you have those nightmares or those dreams where you see something that you've been waiting for a long time and it's like terrible. This is the complete opposite of that.
Hey everybody, and welcome to a very special episode of the Invincible podcast, where we are joined by none other than Robert Kirkman.
Hey everybody, happy to be here. Very exciting time for all Invincible fans. So yeah, let's get into it.
It is. So we're recording this a little bit before, but when it comes up, we are less than a week away from the series actually coming out for everybody, from March 26th here. How is this feeling? How is this feeling that like people are seeing it, people are watching it? I mean, we've seen the first 3 episodes now. So how does it feel to, finally get it out there and hear what people are thinking?
I think it's a big relief. I mean, this is something that we've been working on for years, and the ramp up to this launch has just been getting bigger and bigger, and watching the anticipation for it grow is very exciting. And watching my Twitter feed shift from like 90% Walking Dead, 10% Invincible to 90% Invincible, 10% Walking Dead is pretty exciting. So yeah, it's really great. I'm glad the moment's finally here, and I'm just really excited to be, sharing this show with the audience. I can't wait for people to get to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you talked about like the ramp up. One thing that Mike Barrett and Mitch Krasen even like wrote in and wanted to know, and we all wanted to know, was, it's been kind of a long road and a difficult 2020 with COVID that's still out there. How has that affected the production, and did it cause any delays in the process, or?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely would have gotten this show a little bit sooner if it hadn't been for COVID. We had a lot of, marketing plans around Comic-Con and, launch plans that ended up not coming to fruition just because the entire production had to alter the way it worked. I mean, we had teams in Los Angeles, in Vancouver, and in South Korea, working in offices on this show. And, when it hit, I think it affected South Korea first. That's when they started, changing things up. But everybody had to switch to work from home. So you had animators that were actually, working on scenes that had to, get the technology to take their, work environments from the office and rebuild them in their, living space and then keep going. So there was a big transition where we had to shift to that. And once we shifted to that, unlike live production where you can't just film all the actors individually in their houses to do like a live action show, we were able to get ramped back up and kind of produce the show without any kind of hiccups or anything. But there was a transition period where we lost a number of weeks, and that did affect the schedule. But I really have to give it to everybody. I mean, they really rolled their sleeves up and figured out how to get it done, and really worked to make sure that the show was everything it can be. And here we are, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are.
I mean, you could see some of that too. I mean, you look at it. We had what was it? The Free Comic Book Day issue should have been last April. I mean,
yeah,
that was almost a year ago. And it's like, here's this thing promoting this. So, I mean, I think people could put the pieces together about how things shifted, but
yeah, that was frustrating because it was like, the Free Comic Book Day book will come out in early May, and then people will get their first glimpse of, actually seeing some screenshots and designs for the show. And, Free Comic Book Day books are actually printed in February usually. And so because I guess the distribution is different and every retailer has to make sure that it's there for that event. And so Diamond, the comic distributor, forces you to have those books done extremely far in advance. And so those things were just sitting in a warehouse waiting to be distributed. And then it was like, are we having a Free Comic Book Day? Like, what's going on? Like, I mean, there were
crazy.
Getting into the pandemic, there were a few months that was like, will there be comics again? Like it was scary for a few weeks. But yeah, so it was, best laid plans kind of situation.
So I'm curious, and a couple other fans are curious as well. Now, you've obviously been involved with the Walking Dead production, and you actually have there's another animated show that's on Amazon Prime, Super Dinosaur. So you've had a connection with animation that way, but how is developing a show for animation different from like the live action form? Like, have you seen, like, is it majorly different with all the different parts? Because it seems like from talking to a couple different people that just like edit one panel, it sounds like there's so many people that have their hands on it that it's just so much different.
Well, I mean, that's similar to live action. Everything's done in pieces, and, everybody has their hand in it to make sure that this massive undertaking gets done. I think that creative wise, there's not no limitations, but there are fewer limitations to animation. And, once you've seen the show, I think people will understand, just the crazy scope and scale of this show that animation provides us. And so I think that that's, why we had to do this series in animation to adapt the comic books as closely as we are adapting them. And, there are some significant changes here and there, but for the most part, all the broad strokes are very much intact. And to be able to do that, you almost have to work in animation. And so, I think that's a real benefit to that. But as far as the development process goes, I mean, I very much tried, not to limit myself. I mean, there are, working on Walking Dead, there would be things where it'd be like, all right, there's like 1,000 zombies busting through this thing. And they'll be like, how about 200? And you're like, be cooler if it was 1,000, but I can try and make it work with 200. And then, they're going to film it and they're like, a bunch of people got sick, so we have 13 guys today. And you're like, all right, cool. But and that doesn't happen often, but there are things like that do happen from time to time. And so as a writer, I would get frustrated, sometimes with the production process of, like you in the writer's room, the story is this, and then you have a production meeting and the story becomes this. And I'm making hand motions where things that are big get smaller. The people who are actually listening to the podcast instead of staring at me in the room where I record this. And so, when I set out to do Invincible, I was like, we're not going to hold anything back. Like, we're, just going to go crazy. And that resulted in a lot of really tired animators. But it also resulted in a really cool show. So yeah, it's I'm very excited.
How long would you say is like production from like the start of production to the end of post-production for season 1?
Well, I mean, we did a lot of pre-production and things that, you have to do when you're starting a new show that, it's roughly 3 years, but that doesn't mean every season is going to take 3 years moving forward. Right. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of development and staffing and, different things and, animation tests and things that all have to take place that, take up a lot of time. So it is a lot more time consuming than live action.
Yeah.
Right.
I got a couple questions here that I think work well together. I want to read these. We got the first one from Mike Carter, which he asked, did going into both Invincible and Walking Dead, did you know exactly what you wanted to change, or did it develop more as a process in the writer's room, or were there changes, or were these changes more plot based? But then Sunbreaker Entertainment wanted to know, how did it feel revisiting the beginning of this story again? Was it pure nostalgia, or could you not help yourself but see flaws, even if they were not there? And things you wished you did differently. You know what I mean? So like, how did you feel about making these changes, and were they changes that you've been wanting to make all along, kind of? I think where they're both kind of.
Yeah. I think, there's little things that I won't go into, but yeah, there's little tweaks and enhancements and things like that. There are, I guess, flaws and things that I didn't think worked very well that I wanted to fix. But I think more than that, when you take something that exists and you go to adapt it, you want to update it and you want to improve it. And one of the benefits that we have in the animated series is that the 144 issues of Invincible are actually done. And that's something we didn't even have with Walking Dead. With Walking Dead, I was still very much in the run when we started that show. But for this series, we know what the end point is. We know what the midpoint is. We know everything that happens in between. And we are able to sit back and go, okay, well, let's go through this segment faster. Let's go through this segment slower. It might actually make more story sense if plot B takes place before plot A. And we can take, there are episodes where we'll take a long running subplot that ran through 144 issues, and we'll go, okay, well, these 4 bits that took place in issue, 12, 19, 23, and 44, will make sense if they all happen in one episode. And then we'll kind of cram it all together. And, it gives you the opportunity to tell the same story, but you're telling it in a clearer way, a more succinct way, or a more cohesive way that I think will hopefully make the storytelling a little bit better. And that's just because we get to sit back and look at that full 144 issues and go, okay, let's turn these dials here and move this here and do that.
I will say, as a fan of the comic, hearing something like that can give you a little bit of a fear, like, oh man, you're going to take these things. That happens way later though, and that happens much sooner. So you're going to put it into only one. If what we've seen in the first 3 episodes, any examples of that I may have seen, it works. And like you said, it's more concise, it's more clear, and it's done in a way that makes sense, and it's done really well.
I feel like we should say too,
I think one of the I'm talking right now.
I'm sorry.
TJ.
I'll just go.
Put your head down. Look down. Look down, TJ. There you go. That's better. Much better.
And now I forgot what I was going to say. No, but I was going to say, I think one of the charms of the Invincible series and the thing that people liked a lot in the comics is that the subplots were there. And I'm not saying we're getting rid of subplots by moving a bunch of pieces of a subplot into one episode. Those little dangling threads where, we have something completely disconnected happen in a show or in an issue. And you're like, I don't know what that means. I don't know why we saw that. I guess we'll find out later. And then 4 issues later, it's like, oh, that's what that is. Or wait, there's another piece of it, but I still don't quite know what that is. That's a lot of fun. And we're definitely still going to have a lot of that in the show. It's possible that by taking things from the comic and cleaning them up and compacting them a little bit, it'll give us more room to do new things in the show, which I'm very excited about because, it's fun to get back into the Invincible universe and add some new stuff to it, which we are doing from time to time. But we're not going to lose that very integral element of Invincible by doing that. And now, TJ, you can talk. I apologize. That was a little rude.
Oh, thank you. No, I was just going to say, like, obviously, like we said, it's a month away for us anyways, before the show comes out. We were able to see the first 3 episodes, and coming from like diehard fans of Invincible, obviously we're the Invincible podcast, who are not employed by Skybound in any way, we loved it. You have nothing to worry about. Like it was perfect. There are changes. I mean, there are minor changes here and there, but it keeps the heart of Invincible. It expands on the best parts. Speaking for all 3 of us, we loved it, and no one has anything to worry about.
So getting back to the writing of it, though, so you I think this was previously announced. You wrote the season premiere and the finale, or just the premiere?
Yes. I wrote the premiere and the finale.
Awesome. And I know we talked a little bit about comparing it to live action. Is there anything, this is an hour long animated. Do you think that was a benefit? Okay, I have this much room to tell this story, as opposed to, all right, let's just do 20 half-hour ones, because that's a little bit more like maybe adapting a comic. Because I know that one issue is probably going to fit well into that half-hour slot, but 1 hour, I mean, I could tell you, we're watching an episode of this, and around that half-hour point, we're like, my God, there is so much here. This is a lot, and it's in a good way.
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. I mean, we just wanted to do something different. I wanted this to feel like a cable drama, which is an hour-long format. I wanted it to be animated so that we could do the different things that animation allows us to do, but I didn't want that to box us into the 22-minute half-hour format because you've seen that before, but I wanted this to feel, this should feel like an episode of The Boys or an episode of, Game of Thrones or Walking Dead or whatever. It just happens to be animated. And so I think I don't know. I feel like, it benefited us tremendously to have that, full length of each episode to explore this world. I mean, there's, you guys know there's 1,000 different characters and 1,000 different storylines that we're trying to get to. And this is a very complex, interwoven story that spans a vast era of time. And so, you need those episodes to really dig into it. I feel like we'd be giving people kind of a short shrift if we were to just do half-hour animated, typical animated episodes.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. I got one from, I was like, no, TJ will certainly take this. And then I've got one from Frank Silva. He says, did you play a big role in casting decisions? Did you have a list of actors or actresses that you really wanted to get for this show? So the cast is outrageous. I mean, we've been talking about this for like a year now. It's unbelievable. I don't know how you guys did this. So is there someone specifically that you sought out? I mean,
well, Stephen Yeun was, I think, the key get, and he was the first person we talked to. And, he actually came in during the development process and did some voice work for some test animation and things like that, just as a favor to me. Okay. And I didn't even know if we were going to be able to get him for the series. I was like, I really want you for this, but, I understand you're real busy and I appreciate you helping me out. But, and he was like, oh no, if I got time, I'll do it. And then we ended up getting him. And I think that was key because he's just, in my opinion, he's like the perfect Mark. And then being able to build a cast around him, was very easy. I mean, once you start telling people, well, Stephen Yeun's in the show, like people get excited about that. Yeah. I've said before that, I kind of have a vague notion of how Alan the Alien talks, when I'm writing the comic. But it's not so solidified that there's only one actor on the planet that could do it. And that actor is Ed O'Neill, and someone says, well, we can't get Ed O'Neill. And I'm like, well, phooey, I don't want to do this. Like, that's the perfect Alan. I can't do that. When someone is like, hey, Seth Rogen might be interested in doing this, it's like my idea of how Alan speaks is somewhat vague, but then I start to think like, oh, well, okay, Seth Rogen's voice. Oh, wait, no, that's exactly what I want. That's perfect. That's amazing. Like this has to happen. And so, it's not like we sought out people, like, oh, this person has to do this. This person has to do this. It was a very typical casting process where they're like, I think we can get J.K. Simmons. And you're like, no, we can't. That's never going to happen in a million years. I'm not getting my hopes up. And then it happens. And then one day they call and they're like, hey, Mark Hamill's interested in doing this. And you're like, what? No way. No way is this going to work out. So
this just kept happening to you? Like every, week or so, they would be like, hey, you ended up getting Michael Dorn. And it's like every time. Yeah.
Well, no, Michael Dorn, it's like, I feel like the perfect thing. Battle Beast, I think, was a case of like, we really need to get like a Michael Dorn kind of guy. And they were like, well, what about Michael Dorn? And I was like, I think he might. And then, we were able to bring him in. Have we revealed this? I don't know. Like Reginald VelJohnson does the voice of the principal of the school.
No,
of Reginald VelJohnson High.
No,
that's amazing. That is amazing.
That is amazing. that is awesome. I'm sure that'll be revealed by the time this goes up, but that's perfect. I'm so glad.
Breaking ground here, but yeah, it's stuff like that would happen where we're just like, this is the craziest thing in the world. Like I can't believe this is coming together.
That's insane. Huh. So our friend Wyatt Layne, who does all of our music for us, he has a question about the music in the series, which was incredible, and the way it makes big moments that you wouldn't think would be iconic. It makes it iconic. It's great. So a question that he has is, how much development did you have in the music? Was he given John Pisano? Was he given any direction as to how to make it more like Invincible like?
Yeah, I think so. We sat down with John and just to be 100% transparent and honest here, it was just like, there's a lot of superhero stuff out there. Let's try to avoid what people normally expect as a superhero score. And then I stopped talking because I am somewhat musically stupid. And so for me to be like, I think Invincible music would be like this, would just be a disservice to someone as talented as John. So, I mean, I really, Simon Rasiopa, our head writer on the show, was involved as well. And, we were getting like different takes of things and stuff like that in, and giving our thoughts and things like that. But for the most part, John just kind of ran with it. And, you see what we ended up with. It was absolutely amazing. But yeah, I mean, I'm very, very much about giving, talented people as much freedom as possible to, do what it is that you brought them in to do. I think that giving people too much direction, can sometimes box them in and make them, not think of the things that they would think if you just go, hey, go crazy and let's see what happens.
Yeah. You mentioned Stephen Yeun being perfect, and I'm bringing this back. He was, and I don't think the trailers did it justice. He is so good as Mark, man. It really is great.
He's spectacular, and he's just so thoughtful as an actor. He's read the entire run of the comic, and I think he did like maybe 2 or 3 lines of dialogue in the first recording session, and then he kind of pulled me aside and he was like, I'm trying to play him really, really naive because I know where the character goes, and I want to be able to like portray his like heightened awareness as he moves through this world. So I'm trying to start him here so that by the end of season 1, I can bring him here, and by the next season, I have places to go with the character. And I was like, no, like, I was like, what? It was just amazing, and just to know how much craft he like puts into every single role, and just all the different angles that he's thinking of when he does the voice work was really kind of stuff. I was just I think you know, and that sounds great.
What's really great is you watch Stephen Yeun in The Walking Dead, and we watch Final Space where he's Little Cato, this little cat, and and this is completely different. And honestly, I don't even hear Stephen Yeun. I don't see him. I see Mark. Like he is so perfect for that role. Ryan, you said like the trailers, are just really quick, and there's just like 1 or 2 sentence dialogue things, 2 words, 3 words. But when you get like an actual moment, like we're just like, holy shit. Like, all right, I'm in. That's it. I'm in. I'm totally in. So when you said, Robert, that you kind of built it around him, that was a fucking great decision. Like, because he is Mark. Like he's so Mark. It's so perfect.
Yeah, no, I mean, he has tremendous range, and the fact that he loses himself in this role so well is a real, service to this show. And, like to know a character for 16 years and, month in and month out, be writing the character, and then to be in a room with a human being and have them go, hey, this is what this guy sounds like. And I was thinking this, and you're like, whoa, I never, considered that. And oh my gosh, I'm being introduced to this character I've known for, almost 2 decades. Is a fun experience, and it really, as a creator, like makes you just really comfortable, like knowing that you've made the right decisions and you're on the right path, and the show is in good hands, and it's really spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to ask what that was like too. The fact that like here you go, you've got all these people to play in this toy box that you've created, that you've had all to yourself all these years in the comic book. Not to yourself, you've had Corey and Ryan as well, but like. Now you've got a lot of people whose hands are in this and making it their own and taking it, from the animators to, even people at Amazon. I mean, you've got a lot of people playing with Invincible now. I mean, how's that feel?
It's great. It's extremely gratifying. It's a lot of fun. It's humbling to see how invested like everybody gets into this kind of stuff. And it's something that I've experienced a few times on different projects. And so it's always something that you have to kind of get used to. I think a weird thing that happens, I hope this comes off the right way, is like, I'll do it this way. So I go to Eric Larson's house, and Eric Larson, who did the Savage Dragon, is one of my favorite comic book creators of all time. And I've always loved Savage Dragon, and he's got original art, like just stacked all over the place. And because he drew it, they're pieces of paper to him. So it's like going to Leonardo da Vinci's studio and him being like, the Mona Lisa, like whatever, and just like throwing it in a corner. He like puts his elbow on these original art. And he's like talking to me like, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, like whatever. And I think that that's something that I experience when I'm, working with people adapting my own material. Like on The Walking Dead, especially early on, I'd be like, I don't care, kill him. Like it'll be great. But, people won't expect it. They'll be like, I thought Rick Grimes was going to be in this show for many, many seasons, and he just dies in episode 2. Cool, let's do that. And everybody's like, no. Like, what are you talking about, you lunatic? And so it's great because when you do this stuff, you get surrounded by all these people that are a little bit more careful than you are.
That's interesting.
I'm very comfortable with Invincible, and I feel very strongly about how the 144 issues went. And, I've learned a little bit of lessons from Walking Dead. Very early on in Walking Dead, I would be that reckless guy that was like, let's blow it up, see what happens. It'll be a lot of fun. I mean, we did it in the comics. Let's do it different. Let's see what happens. I'm a little bit more controlled on Invincible. But it's great to see, like, people that, it's not that they care about it more than I do. I think they just think it's a little bit more fragile than I do. And so they take a little extra level of care with it. And that's a lot. That's really great to see.
I think the three of us can completely understand where you're coming from. Like, please God, don't change anything. You know what I mean? Like what I think is
change some things.
what I think is cool. And what I think works is that, like you said, Robert, there was an end. Like Invincible was ended at 144. So you knew where it was going to go. And I'm assuming you knew that if you changed this way, that you still had to get here probably. So I feel like maybe was it easier? I mean, I think you already probably answered that question, but maybe having more control because it was just like, in these four little walls complete.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be a lot easier to talk about after the first season is completed. But, there are things where, like it took us 9 steps to get there in the comic. But if you really sit back, you only need 4 of those steps. And so it makes things a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah.
And there's things where it's like, okay, this happened to this person. And I was very sad when that happened, or I was very scared when that happened. But I would be so much more sad or so much more scared if this also happened. And so then that's kind of like turning the dial. Like, it was at a 6 in the comic book. Let's see if we can get it to a 9 in the show. And that's a lot of fun. Just, kind of just adding some spice to the recipe to heighten moments that we knew worked in the comic book, but we might be able to make them work better in the show.
Yeah.
Nice.
I thought it was interesting that you go ahead, Bill.
No, go ahead. I'll shut up this time. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. I was just going to say that Stephen reading the entire run, I don't think by any means it's necessary for any of the actors to have read a lot, but is there any interesting stories out there of Oscar award-winning actors reading Invincible that did any of them actually read a good chunk of it, or is it mostly just some direction in the booth kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, they were all given the comic, and I working on Walking Dead, I know not to ask. I'm not going to quiz how many issues did you read?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And it really doesn't. I mean, they
exactly.
read all the scripts, and a lot of actors I've talked to, acting is an extremely difficult process. And you have to be in a certain mindset, and you have to not only know your lines, but know what your character is thinking and how your character is feeling, and the world that exists around it. And when you're voice acting, you have to build all that kind of stuff in your head. You don't have sets and things like that to help you out. And I have experienced on Walking Dead and on this, people that are I can't read more than what's in this script, because if I know, that think of it like this. If someone has a really dramatic emotional scene, but they know that they're eventually okay because they know that 10 issues away, like something else happens and everything's fine. Like it's very hard for them to have that authentic moment in the acting. And so they do like very much to be a little bit more laser focused. That said, Mantzoukas is a huge Invincible fan and, is always, he was talking to me about the book well before he was cast.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there's a few people on the cast that are fans, but I'm not gonna pinpoint everybody.
Yeah. No, that's just.
I don't think Walton Goggins read shit.
Nice. That's such a cool answer, Robert. Like, I think as fans of something, you always want everybody to have read everything, but I don't think. I feel like I'm too naive and ignorant to think that way. You know what I mean? That like this is an artistic process, and that makes it that much more believable. So I feel like I have more respect for people not reading things for that reason.
I think it's for a lot of people's process, it's almost essential. And, I do a lot of panels at conventions, and a lot of the actors beforehand, especially when it's the first panel for a show, will be like, well, how will these fans react if I say I haven't, read this comic, or that I wasn't a fan of this comic before I was cast? Like, that's another thing. Like, a lot of people in interviews will be like, were you a fan of this before you were cast? And it's like, so you want to punish them because they just didn't happen to hear about this thing?
Yeah.
A lot of these people aren't comic book fans, and a lot of actors are, working nonstop. I mean, think about The Rock. You think The Rock has read a Black Adam comic book? He's working on this movie. He's pumping iron like for 7 hours a day. But I think that they get so invested. I mean, I have had actors on Walking Dead pull me aside in filming and be like, ask me questions that I've never even considered. I had a conversation with Andrew Lincoln about Rick Grimes' family and how he grew up and what kind of household he grew up in, and what his family life was as a child. And he was like, I always felt that Rick grew up this way and that his life was like this, and that informed his character this way and turned him into this kind of person as an adult. And I just went, yep, that's exactly what I've never considered that in a million years.
Wow.
That's because I'm writing the comic every month. I work on the TV show. I'm always working on the story that I'm telling. But for an actor to embody that character, they have to come up with like who that person is, and it helps them. And it was amazing to be sitting, talking to, Andrew Lincoln. Andrew Lincoln didn't know Walking Dead existed until he got a casting call. And they were like, would you be interested in this? And I remember, he's told this story many times in public. Like he wasn't really going to take it, and his brother was actually or brother-in-law, I can't remember, it was a comic book fan, and was like, you have to take this role. And he was like, I don't know. And he went to a comic shop, picked up a couple issues, but like, not a fan, this is all for him. But yet I'm on a set with him a year later, and he's telling me something profound about my character that he's playing that I've never in a million years considered. So you can argue that he is infinitely more invested in Rick Grimes as a character than I ever was.
Wow.
And that's very flattering and also humbling and a little bit embarrassing, but it is the truth. I mean, these actors and very much everybody on Invincible, you could say this about them. They're in the recording booth asking questions, but I have to fake my way through sometimes.
But that's also a sign of a real character too. That this is the depth of a character that it can be shared and grown. But that's
the most fun of the process for me, because in comics you collaborate, with brilliant artists, Corey Walker, Ryan Ottley, they transform your bullshit half-assed scripts into amazing visuals that you get to go, yeah, that's what I pictured. That's good. That's perfect. And then when you work on a production and you have actors involved in everything, they take it to an entirely other level. There's been countless times where, I've written a line of dialogue that's being recorded, and I hear it recorded and I'm like, I didn't mean for it to be said that way. And I wasn't picturing that line of dialogue having that much meaning, but man, these people are making me look good. And it's very moving to have that extra level of collaboration and see what they bring to these roles. It's just, it's an amazing process.
That's awesome.
I think it's good. It brings out the best of your writing, but it also adds to theirs too. Like you were talking about Jason Mantzoukas, who like kind of freestyles things and says it, but they're also asking questions too. I think that's what. I mean, again, we've only seen the first 3 episodes, but it was enough to know that it's special.
And you
lunatic, like you'll give him like a 4 or 5 word line and he'll give you like 3 sentences back and he's always like, is that okay, and he gives you what's written and then he just runs wild, and so it's really just a gift. You get back into the editing and you're like, okay, I can pick this amazing line or this amazing line or this amazing line, but yeah, it's crazy what he brings to the table.
And before we wrap up, I definitely want to give a shout out to how great it looks. I mean, the character designs, Corey did an excellent job on that. The animation, I wasn't sure how much CG would be used, how much would be the animation, more traditional style, and it looks so sharp. Again, trailers don't quite do it justice until you're seeing it and your eyes adjust to something for that long of an episode. And
I think I have to really say, like, it looks really unique too.
Yeah,
because Corey is bringing his flavor to it, and not a lot of shows that have his kind of style. Like it has a very unique look. And I'll also say, Corey, had a great team with him. He actually worked with Do Hong, who is an amazing character designer, and another guy named Nate Bellegarde, who you guys may remember.
Hey!
Adam Eve and Rex Blode miniseries.
Yeah.
He was very much a big part of the character design. There's some specific things I could point out that are really cool that Nate did. I'll say that Nate was kind of our blood guru. He would be anytime. I think the way he put it I think he did an Instagram post recently about like saying that he had worked on Invincible and he turned people into meat particles. I can't remember exactly what his wording was, but he was very much this guy's been ground up in a lawnmower. Like, how does that look, Nate?
Yeah.
And then he would do that. Yeah, there you go.
That's you say Nate Bellegarde, and I think of him, Rex Blode, blowing someone's head off, and he can do gore, he can do blood. So you say that, and I can absolutely see it, man. That's amazing.
Oddly enough, I literally just had this sitting right next to my computer, but he drew that for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
look at that.
Nate's great.
Weird coincidence.
So I guess we're going to wrap it up there then, because actually I did want to have a couple quick questions because a lot of people ask these questions, and I thought I'd give you a chance to answer. So yes or
spitfire questions.
Yeah, some quick questions.
I reserve the right to not answer any of these, but
they could be yes or no, so you could just say no.
Okay.
Can you say if we'll see any tie-in comics introduced, like Wolfman or Tech Jacket Brit?
I mean, it would be nice. I think that in success, I would love to be able to also do an Astounding Wolfman show and a Tech Jacket show, and actually have like a universe of animated, Invincible Universe characters.
That's what we want to hear. That's great. Can you say
you got to watch this show on a loop?
Yeah, right.
24 hours a day, every day. Get
We will.
Can you say if there's a theme song?
Well, you guys have seen it. You're just asking me. How's the best way to answer this? No, I don't know.
I'd say traditionally there's not a traditional theme song.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to waste a lot of running time with any kind of like long drawn out thing. Mm-hmm. So we have a very modern, stylish title sequence that is very brief, I'll say.
Yeah. And then can you say whether or not we will see yourself, Corey Walker, or Ryan Ottley animated?
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
That's a no you can't say?
Or no, you're not in there.
I don't know. Corey
might have slipped
Corey's
something
not
in there.
That stuff. I'm not really into that stuff. I mean, there's definitely. There's friends of Corey's that make cameos that he just drew in. There's little things, that we all get to look at and laugh that no one else will notice. But I don't know, like drawing ourselves in there just seems so self-serving that we did it.
Yep.
But
I have another Spitfire quick question.
Sure.
Can you say if there are plans to involve Simon Pegg and Nick Frost in any way?
Oh my gosh.
I would love to do that. We weren't able to do that for the first season.
That seems like such a no-brainer, man. They seem like they'd be so in on that.
For anybody that's wondering why I'm asking, they are diehard Invincible fans. So
yeah. If you haven't seen the movie Paul, there's a lot of a lot of Invincible stuff in that.
Yeah. Well, thank you for everybody that sent in your questions, and keep an eye out because we're going to be releasing episodes where we talk about every episode of the Invincible animated series, which gets confusing because we talk about episodes talking about episodes, but episodes on episodes coming out soon. So thank you everybody for listening, and thanks again, Robert, for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was great. Thanks everybody. Invincible.
Bye.
Yes.
Here we go.
Bye.
I have to do episode 100, right? I mean,
right?
Come on.
That's why I can't even number this one.
We can talk for a long time on that one because it'll all be out.
It'll all be out there.
Right. Spoiling anything. So
yeah.
So, yeah.